really great that you're joining me for this because I was just so excited to see your new platform. I just think it's so cool. And yeah, it's just got such potential for in so many different ways. Do you want to just talk a little bit about what it is so people understand more about it?
So TulipShare is the first retail activist investment platform. What we are is essentially a broker-dealer where people come and buy and sell stock in publicly listed company. But for the first time, we utilize shareholder rights to drive change in the companies you're investing in. What we do is we aggregate shareholder rights together to leverage our position with the companies that we're engaging with in order to have a bigger strength and a bigger group opportunity. It comes from the very simple need that if you look around you, everyone is there's a lot more people who are becoming essentially investors. There is an investment boom at the moment, but very few actually utilize shareholder rights. If you ask some of your friends who have Apple stock or Tesla stock or Facebook stocks, how many have ever voted on a shareholder proposal? The answer is going to be close to zero. And that's a shame because this is really a power that is given to the shareholder. Once you own a piece of a company, you can have a say in the way the business is run. Why are we letting this voting powers to institutions, to centralized entities, to pension funds, to private equity firms who are engaging with the company and utilizing these rights? So that's really what we're trying to address here is giving to the people an alternate way to express their wishes and their will, because it works. The bottom line is it works. If it works for Carl Icahn or for other activist investors who are mostly doing it for their own good and to try to increase their own wealth and increase their return on investment, it works as well when you're utilizing shareholder rights to try to drive positive change, whether it's environmental, sustainable, human rights, labor law, everything, shareholder rights can be utilized towards this objective.
Yeah. So my next question was going to be, why is it important that people use those shareholder rights, right? I mean, it's just something for a lot of men and women on the street that they don't even think about. They don't realize that having a pension makes them an investor. They don't realize that investment is available to them, and like using shareholder rights is kind of it's the next level. Why is it so important that they know that they have these rights and they use them?
You addressed a very important point. Why does nobody know that it's possible? Why does nobody know that by being a shareholder in a company, you have shareholder rights that are attached to it? And why is it being kept opaque? Why there is two trends that is happening. It's less and less common for people to understand that they have shareholder rights, to understand the corporate governance as a whole, and the other is it's being make more and more difficult for shareholders to actually utilize their shareholder rights. It's important because 50, 60 years ago, if you go to any annual general meeting and shareholders meeting, it was mostly retail shareholders that were there raising hands and voting and taking decisions and being part of the governance of the company. Whereas today, this has completely disappeared. It's the opposite. It's the institutions, centralized entity that are actually those entities are utilizing their shareholder rights. Why is it important? Well, if you look around us in the world today, do you think the planet is fair and sustainable? And some of the answers can be addressed by corporation. So we live in a more and more corporatist world. Do I think that governments or other type of entities are losing some of their power compared to corporation? Absolutely, it's a fact. It's something that no one can argue with. So how do we, us as citizens, as people living in this society, utilize what we can do to actually change those corporations? Well, that's why you have to use shareholder rights. It's very a simple 1 + 1 = 2. It's saying, me plus my money have access to a way a business is run. And so I should definitely use it, because if you're not using it, someone else will. And that's how you get that much bad apples. Corporation as an entity, companies, corporation are not necessarily they're here for one goal. It's definitely to make money and enrich its shareholders. But it's also the vision of what the shareholder wants it to be. So if shareholder says this company should be more sustainable, if shareholder says this company should put more focus into human rights, then that's what's going to happen. Because ultimately the company is just the sum of its total of its shareholders. So it's very, very important that people start being educated, that it is possible, that it's achievable, and that it's just something that's out there, making it accessible for them. You mentioned pension. In the UK, in the US, most of the people don't even know that their pension have shareholder rights attached to it. Who's voting on this pension? It's most likely your pension manager. What is he voting on? He's most likely voting default, which is in favor of management all the time on issues that are going to affect your life for the next 20 to 50 years. Obviously, some people might live longer than that. But if your fight is about plastic pollution or climate change, then why do you have those sitting money for 20, 30 years that is being voted on by someone else than you? It's definitely a point.
Yeah. So before we get on to some examples of that, just hearing some examples of, specific kind of shareholder resolutions and issues and companies and that type of thing. Before we move on to that, you sound so passionate about this topic. It's like you've been thinking about this for years and years, but actually your background is in dating apps, I saw. How did you make that transition? What was it that kind of, triggered that change?
A deep need to keep the planet fair and sustainable. I have, it might sound cliche, but when I became a father of 2 kids, I realized that, the system that we live in is definitely not sustainable for them, and they won't have a better life than we had. Even if you give them all the chances that we had as kids and teenagers and young adults, they're never going to get it better than we had. So if you want to keep the economical society, sustainability means just keeping it as it is, improving it, but keeping it stable for the long term. It doesn't mean, like people think sometimes, like, okay, sustainable change is a complete overhaul of our society. It's not. Sustainability means just management for long term. So this is what, and that's what we should be doing as parents, as citizens, as just people, as part of those systems. So that's definitely one of the thing. The other is, the industry, I think, as a whole, from the fintech space, can definitely do better. Why is no one voting today? It's most likely the broker's fault. Why are they not pushing their users to vote? Why are they, letting them gamble on some stocks without even sometimes understanding what type of company they're investing in? Why are they not letting them utilize their shareholder rights? Why are pension managers or everyone in the financial or wealth industry not empowering the retail investors or the everyday investors to utilize their shareholder rights? So the industry can definitely do better. The other is definitely the impact and ESG space is now there's a lot of marketing product, let's say, in this space, and very few actual impact or results being delivered. So there's nothing more direct and easily explainable to someone that, you buy Coca-Cola stocks to ban plastic. That's a very simple link. I'm buying some pieces of the company, and I'm going to utilize my shareholder rights to drive this strategical change in the plastic policy. So it's really, fighting greenwashing in the space as well is super important, and it's really needed. COP26 solutions, or just overall long-term solutions won't necessarily come from politics. Would it come from entrepreneur? Well, at least we have to try. I think you're trying it through your media platform. I'm trying it through my fintech consumer platform. Everyone should definitely think about it. I mean, if it's not the biggest issue that you have on your mind, then you're thinking about the wrong thing.
I love it. That's so great. Thank you. That was such a great answer. Okay, so for the average person, it's kind of hard to imagine what the process is when it comes to using your vote. Like what happens? What's an AGM? How does a shareholder resolution, how is that raised? What's the process so people can really kind of imagine it so that they know exactly what they're contributing to?
Absolutely. when you buy stocks on any platform that you use out there, as soon every share is given a vote, and every vote can be utilized during what we call the AGM, which is the Assembly General Meeting, which is held once a year, where the company and all its shareholders gather together to review the past year and to actually ask questions about the strategical change or any topics can be raised by investors and shareholders during those meetings. You need to have a certain thresholds to be able to submit a shareholder proposal, which usually limits the amount of shareholder resolutions and shareholder proposals that are being submitted. What we're facilitating at TulipShare is that you don't need to think about all that. Every pound invested onto a stock will be utilized for a specific campaign. If you come on tulipshare.com now and you decide to invest in Coca-Cola, you know that every pound that you invest will be utilized to fight plastic pollution, because this is what we're pushing with the company at the moment, and this is what we're trying to get them to change the strategy on. If they don't listen to us, if they don't want to engage positively in the change that we expect, then we have a tool which is called a shareholder proposal that you can submit to all other shareholders. This is outside of the realm and of control of the company. This is now being a vote that's being casted on by everyone who owns share in the company. What do you think about Coca-Cola plastic policy? Should it be tougher? Should it be less aggressive? Should it be, should we push them to have more recycled plastic? We can submit those questions to all other shareholders to create not only a signal, but also internally, I don't believe that corporations are evil. I think some people at Coca-Cola are just waiting for those activist shareholders to say, we will support you, whatever you decide to make this company better and better on the long term. It's the number one plastic polluter. I don't think anyone who works there is happy to have this title. Like it's not something that you're happy with. So definitely, for the first time, they're going to be able to rely on a group of shareholders that will support whatever decision is going in that direction. And that's basically what we're doing at TulipShare. It's trying to utilize all the aspects of corporate governance that are written in the rule book and making it accessible to the everyday investors. We've super simplified it, because every time you buy a stock on TulipShare, you're buying a campaign. You know exactly what you're investing in. If you're buying Amazon because you think this company has a future and has legs, your stocks and your shareholdings will be utilized to improve workers' condition in the delivery center, which we all know is awful. But none of us as customers have ever agreed to that the driver doesn't have any break time to go on a toilet break, or that the delivery guys are actually being worked super hard. So this is a shareholder issue that needs to be addressed by shareholder, and this is why we really we're utilizing all this to address those issues. Did I explain the AGM and how it works? Or so it's really about you buy stocks, and then we utilize your shareholders' position through shareholder rights that are given to it, and by aggregating all of them together, we have a stronger voice when we engage with the company up until this potential vote that we can trigger if the company is not responding to our request.
Right. So, okay. So that's interesting. So the first stage is to raise an issue and to ask questions. And if they're not responding, then you can trigger a vote. Is that how it works? And
yeah,
then
because sorry. Yeah. No, go ahead.
And then I was just going to ask then, if once a vote is triggered, is it a certain percentage of votes that you need to have for them to comply with demands, whatever those are?
The first step is engaging with the company. We haven't created a platform to boycott or to create a conflict with the company. You are becoming a shareholder of Coca-Cola, of Amazon. You are actually essentially utilizing your money to try to drive change within those companies. So we have to engage with them. We have to create this communication that goes both ways. Hey, this is our point of view. This is what we want to address. What's your answer onto that? This is very important, because we're building a relationship here. And if it's it needs to be firm. It needs to be very motivated. But it also it needs to be done in a smart way. And this is what we're providing here. We're basically your private legal team that is engaging with the company to try to achieve the change without going to this binding scenario of a shareholder resolution and a vote. If the company engagement and discussion doesn't go into the way that we like, and our users do not appreciate the answers and the response that we're getting, then we definitely have this choice to be able to submit the proposal to be voted on by all other shareholders. Once this is being decided, obviously it's the majority wins, but it's also a lot of signaling. If I own through TulipShare, if the group owns 0.001% of the shares, but we get 12, 13, 15, 40% of the vote, then it's sending a very strong signal to management and the team. This year, they might have not passed the resolution, but those guys are able to generate much more noise than they're actually holding within the company. So that means that other shareholders are supporting their strategy, and there will be more and more coming every year. So it's really a four-dimensional chess here, where you have to think about all potential outcome. Do I think that shareholders of Amazon will support? Some of them will support our decision if we get to a vote. Absolutely. Like same for Coca-Cola, and same for Apple, and same for the new campaign that we just opened at JP Morgan, and same for every future campaign that our community will open. It's always going to be, the question is, are we going to be able to convince the whole majority? We believe that yes, and if it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We just need to keep trying and keep pushing our message. Ultimately, we're pushing for good. We're pushing for a good and positive change that will, it's going to be the rising tides that raise all boats. If you improve workers' condition, if you improve the system that we're living, if you improve the environment and the sustainability of it, then, we're all just going to be better off. So that's the message that we're trying to pitch to other shareholders and to the company itself.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think, a big criticism of the investment industry at the moment is that you've got these big investors and they're just not using these powers to create change, essentially. And so, yeah, we really need individuals to take action in this way to get these issues on the agenda a lot more than they are. I mean, I think in climate change, it's happening much more, but there's so many issues that we could respond to in this way.
And climate change is definitely a very interesting one, because how many of today, a lot of companies offer green bonds that are actually financing a renovation of oil and gas project. So some people sometimes might be convinced that they're investing into an actual green financing, let's call it like this, for lack of better word, and what they're doing is just renovating pipelines, oil pipeline. Of course, it has less carbon emission than the old pipeline, but it's still, you're still not really getting to the point of, how am I going to address a systemic change? So it's really an industry shift that we need to address, and it needs to start by the people. And if you want to change money, you need to use money. It's not going to change by boycott or protesting. It's money that's going to change money. It's such a powerful tool. It has such a powerful energy attached to it that you need money to change money, and it will only come from within. That's why I believe at TulipShare we read the rule book, and we're coming at the table by just saying, guys, we've read the rule book, and this is how we want to play with you. But ultimately, it's going to take money, and a lot of money, to change the money.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree on that, but it's...
No, I mean, I do. I think there's a place for protesting and policy and all of that. I think it all has to happen together. But I think you're right. It's the money. That's where people have to start paying attention to much more, which is why we both do what we do, right? Can you give some examples of cases where this kind of shareholder activism has been successful? Can you help people imagine what can be achieved in this way?
Well, very recently, I have two examples. The first one is Apple just changed their right to repair policy. So, Apple has been an absolute opposition and fighter of the right to repair. So the ability for you to fix your iPhone and get access to authorized parts to fix your iPhone. And they just announced a change. Why did they just announce the change? For two very simple, I think for two simple reasons. The first one is that now the US administration is letting shareholder proposals that are pushing sustainable agenda to go through the AGM. So, the Trump administration has put a lot of barrier for people like us to be able to submit shareholder proposal, when the Biden administration is now letting a little bit more interactions between activists and ESG proposal and the companies, which creates a risk for Apple. Do you really want to have a vote? Do you really want to have all of those stuff submitted and being voted on by all other shareholders? So they decided to take the first step. The other is a lot of shareholders have applied pressure on Apple to fix that. TulipShare was one of them. Since our launch in July, we've reached the minimum thresholds to be able to submit a shareholder proposal. We've continuously engaged with them, and we've really pushed our position for the right to repair, and they've engaged with us, and they were very I think they were quite relieved to announce to us that now they're changing their policy, hoping that we will compromise or withdraw our support into changing their right to repair policy. It's so that's one example, is how using shareholder rights you can actually drive tangible change. Thanks to that, now a lot of iPhone owners will have access to authorized parts to fix their iPhone that will keep their warranty, that will reduce the amount of technical waste, that will reduce the amount of money wasted into buying new phones every year. Like, all of this is tangible outcome that is achieved through global pressure, including shareholders' pressure. Mm-hmm. The other is, recently Exxon had to switch some of their directors due to as well an activist investor hedge funds, which is called Engine One, and really it's showing how I think they own 0.004% of the company, and they still manage to convince other shareholders to vote for their alternate directors. And we know how much a board of director can really impact, because the board of director ultimately approves and validates all of the company's strategy. So it's really important to have directors that are supporting strategical change and not just focus into, okay, let's keep the business as a full oil and gas business. So that's how those are two recent examples in 2021 of how shareholders have managed to have a direct impact into all of our life. Mm-hmm. You change Apple, you change Coca-Cola, you change our life to all of us. It's not by protesting, not by boycotting, which those tools are there, and we know they've been here. But ultimately, those two examples that I just gave, whether it's Exxon or Apple, right to repair, have definitely an impact on our life. And if we keep getting more and more of those, then everyone will just get it. My dream is that one day, everyone realize on the planet that with just $10 each, we can change Coca-Cola, we can change companies, we can really have an impact by just grouping all of our monetary energy together. When this will happen, when this switch will happen, people just need to have more and more example that it is achievable. It's really a challenge that we have to face now, is to build this connection with the everyday people, that it's credible, it's possible, and it's achievable. And it doesn't require us to all be millionaires and grouping us together.
No, exactly. That for me is the big switch, isn't it? It's once people get that and, use that ownership, become owners and use that ownership, it will just be such an exciting time. So yeah, I'm supporting you to get us all there. So can we just talk a little bit about, just for people who are going to come to the site, just, a bit more about how it works. So they invest like £10. Does that go into a fund that you've created, or is it a different fund?
No, there's no fund.
And do they can they earn returns on that as well, or what happens?
So there's no fund. You're paid.
Okay.
So people come onto the platform. We have strong compliance processes where we have to check that everyone is who they say they are. We verify. That's just the fact of being a regulated company. But so you come on the platform, you create an account, you top up your account with using your bank account, so you do a bank transfer, and then you select the stocks that you want to buy, and you're the actual owner of the stocks directly. TulipShare is nothing here but an intermediary that passes on your order that says Charlene wants to buy Amazon, £1,000 worth of Amazon, £1,000 worth of Coca-Cola. And our agreement between Charlene and TulipShare, or the user in TulipShare, is that it's just that every pound invested, you know what it's going to be utilized for. You know what campaign is it going to push. You know what's the agenda that's going to be pushed to try to achieve this change. So everything is very transparent. You cannot just buy, let's say, you cannot just buy Tesla stocks. If you're coming on TulipShare and buying Tesla stock, is because you know exactly what's the campaign that we have in front of it. So you know the objective. You know the progress of the campaign. You know the progress of the activism. So everything is very clear and transparent. We're not controlling anything here. Like, people can buy and sell their position at any time. What we're just telling them, what we're noticing so far, is that people are supporting the campaigns on the long term because they're really here for the change. They're not here for the return on investment, even though it exists, because the market is as crazy as it is now. Everything is just going up. People can make return, definitely. They can also lose money. I mean, like, as with every investment, but ultimately it's their decision. We don't control any of that. They want to buy, they want to sell, they have complete ownership. On that side, we're just like any other broker dealer, where our added value is that your shareholder rights will be utilized for the change that you really want, which is improving workers' condition, fighting child labor, whether it's plastic pollution or sustainability and environmentalism in major corporation. Like, exactly what's going to be pushed as an agenda when we utilize your shareholder rights.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, well, I've only got a couple more questions now. What's the future for TulipShare? And how are you going to work with kind of campaign groups? Because I think that's a really interesting way to kind of get out there in front of the right people.
Absolutely. We're open to discussion with a lot of NGOs and charity at the moment as well. I do think that this space is starting to realize that they're just missing a very component, like, as you said, this little click of, it's by, it takes money to change money, and it takes money to change problems. And we could be their partner into this organization. You could first of all, we've opened campaigns suggestions, so from bottom up. So Charlene, you could come to the platform and say, hey, you know what, I do think that we should, Google tax evasion is a massive issue that's taking money off the governments that could subsidize, schools and better hospital. And I think that's something that we should address. So we have people sending us like very long and detailed reports about their campaign's ID. Sorry, let me just close that. There's too much sun in England. Who would have thought? So yeah, we've opened campaign suggestions. So the future for us is really to build this bottom-up movement where whether it's organizations, individuals will create their campaigns, and through our campaign committee being able to build up successful success. That's one thing. So definitely open to any partnership here. If people are listening to your podcast and wants to reach out to us, like, feel free to reach out to us. We're always open to proposition. International expansion is very important for us. Changing Coca-Cola is a problem whether you live in Stockholm, Rome, Madrid, Los Angeles, or Toronto. And we have to unify those people together. The more we unify, the more monetary power we have, the more strength and leverage we have with the company. It's a no-brainer. That we need to, again, this vision of unifying retail and investors all over the world together is definitely what we need to achieve. So we have a huge regulatory roadmap ahead of us, expansions in multiple territories. And we're very proud to have the UK as our home and our first market. So that's really what's ahead of us for now. Is really expanding our campaign proposition. We only have 4 at the moment, and we're going to keep building onto that by adding much more campaign coming from bottom up, and really making those campaigns accessible to everyone. Because again, like, changing Amazon is something that everyone should and can participate in wherever you live in, and that's what we want to be able to do that.
Awesome. Okay. So final question. Yeah, do you have like a top tip for the man and the woman on the street? I mean, obviously check out TulipShare, but what are there other ways that they can use their money for change?
I think when you want to utilize your money for change, you're already in the right mindset. What's very important is that don't look at the marketing or into the positioning. Look at the underlying securities you're actually buying. That's the most important aspect. You can think of sometimes they will, your banks, your wealth management, your broker platform, your investment platform might guide you into what they call so-called green product. But ultimately, you're buying energy company in the US that are financing the Republican Party, and you know that you don't have the same agenda than them. Others, you're buying green bonds or government bonds that are actually not driving any impact. So it's very important when you get attracted by the impact investment space that you look at the underlying securities. We created TulipShare to create a direct link between your money and the company that you're investing in. And I think it's very important that you get this mindset of what am I actually buying and how is it going to deliver on the promise that I saw, on the ad or on the app or everywhere. Like it's very important that people do their own research into what am I actually buying? What because ultimately this money is going to be put into this system that we're talking about, this energy system, this monetary system that is going to create either more good or more negative, and that's why you need to have a look at. But you're already in the right mindset. If you're thinking, is my money used for good? Then you're already in the right mindset. That's already, you're already done half of the way.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. It was just so great to speak to you. Your passion is so clear and I just love what you're doing. And I'm genuinely so excited to see what happens next for you. So yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, Charlene. Thank you for having me.